How do you define life scripts?
Life scripts are a complex set of unconscious relational patterns formed by physiological survival reactions,
Mhm.
implicit experiential conclusions, explicit decisions, and in some cases by the interjection of the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of another person. These form patterns that give a sense of direction and meaning to our life. Um, when I'm talking about life script, then I'm thinking about the various ways they're formed by physiological survival reactions. This is how young children react. They don't think about things, they react physically within their body.
Yeah.
The same thing when we get older. If there's trauma, our reaction is physiological. The muscles tighten up, right? So that we've got a physiological survival reaction that comes either very early in life, pre-language, and by pre-language I mean before 5 or 6 years of age. The child may have nouns, but they don't have a usable language.
Mhm.
Or when you have later trauma where language is lost because the body is so involved, such as a child is being beaten or sexually molested, they may not have any language about it, any way to think about it, except the body reacts. So physiological, so
And the body remembers.
that's right. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you have implicit conclusions. These are not thought about. They're not decisions, but they are event after event after event. And the conclusions just seems like this is a natural way to understand the situation. For example, one of my clients who came from a large family with 5 brothers, but she was had a underpaid job. She was always deferring to other people.
Mhm.
And I said to her one day, "When did you decide you weren't important?" And she said, "I never decided that. That's my reality. I had 5 brothers. They were my father's football team. My job was to stay in the house and clean the house and help my mother in the kitchen and to shut up at the dinner table because they talked about football."
Mhm.
All right. That's the conclusion, created from hundreds of little events that just made sense to her that I'm
Mhm.
not important. That's very different than what I write about in Integrative Psychotherapy in Action, or the Gouldings write about in their book Redecision Therapy, where the
Mhm.
person can remember, often with the help of therapy, but they'll go back and remember being 10 or 12 years old, making an explicit decision.
Mhm.
I'm not going to try, or uh, I'm not going to speak up. Uh, they make an explicit decision. There, we can help the person go back to the time of script decision, and they can make a new decision, particularly if they can then see how the original decision has been shaped their life. And I have them even look at the future. What's it going to be like if you keep that decision? And that's usually the impetus to change. So you've got script in the body, you've got script by conclusion, you've got script by decision, and then you have script caused by the interjection
Mhm.
of the attitudes, the feelings, the thoughts of the parents. Right? What we talk about when we say interjection, it's the unconscious identification with the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of a significant other that happens in the absence of need fulfilling relationship. So, in essence, the person becomes like the significant people in their life
Yeah.
whom there was a disruption in real relational contact. Now, psychotherapy is different for each form. If we have that early physiological survival reaction, we need to do a bodily oriented psychotherapy. That may be hands-on, touching, holding, but it may also be through movement and exercise and
And
dance,
breathing.
breathing. Yeah. When it comes to script by decision, that can be done in a very active kind of therapy. We often using an empty chair or two-chair technique, getting the person to recreate the original scene and go back and identify the original decision, how that decision has affected their whole life, and then they have often the thrust to make a new decision.
And
But
kind
it's
of,
very,
it's like finishing the unfinished business, right?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and finishing it in a new constructive way.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas if you got a script cause shaped by conclusion, you need a relational psychotherapy to be with the person in a different way, session after session after session. So the quality of the therapist's caring, supportive relationship is the therapy. And then the fourth one, where you've got script by interjection, that involves dealing with the parent or teacher or whoever that person is that they've interjected as though they were my own client. Sometimes just putting a wedge between by explaining, but sometimes actually talking to the parent in their head. So you got four different ways in integrative psychotherapy that we approach life script.